Hello, I'm Colby Mazzarella. Welcome to Life Matters, where we interview guests who protect human life from conception to natural death. Our guest today is attorney Mark Harrington, director of Created Equal, and he's with us by telephone and going to talk about an interesting case he has. Welcome to the show, Mark.
Good to be here. Thank you.
So you are, let's start with your group a little bit. CreatedEqual.org. What is that about?
We were founded in 2011, and the main mission of Created Equal is to raise up the next generation of leaders to take on the culture of death and win, because winning is how the killing ends. And so what we do is we train students to take abortion victim photography and prenatal imagery to high school and college campuses across America.
Wow, that sounds pretty intense. Now, we have a lot of different people in our audience, and some of them are familiar with the idea of the culture of death. Some of them are not quite sure what you mean when you say that.
Well, it's overall, you know, in the American culture, not everybody believes this, but a good portion of the country thinks that it's permissible to take the life of a preborn child in order to get what we want, or because that child might get in the way of our own pursuits. And so we want to create a culture of life, that is, that protects and believes in life, not kills it at the level we're doing, which is over 1 million abortions per year.
So a culture of life would support a pregnant woman with lots of options and not a supposed choice, which often feels like no choice at all.
Exactly. Planned Parenthood and the abortion advocates, they don't really believe in choice. What they believe is one choice, that is that women who might find themselves in a difficult situation with a crisis pregnancy, that they should choose abortion. If they were for choice, they would actually be supportive of the work that we do, which is showing them what abortion really represents, which is a dismembered preborn baby.
Now, you have, speaking of dismembered actual bodies of babies, this is what your case is about, the actual outcome of abortion and what happens next. Can you explain the actual case with the company called Stericycle?
Yes. Well, if we all recall about, what was about a year and a half ago, the Center for Medical Progress released undercover videos showing Planned Parenthood staff and personnel discussing the sale and harvesting of human baby parts from abortion. David Daleiden was the man behind that. And there was a set of videos that were actually not available to the public, that got leaked by someone at the U.S. Congress. These were videos of the National Abortion Federation Conference, in which David Daleiden got in and was in some of their sessions. And in one of those sessions, an abortionist by the name of Renee Chillian, who's out of Michigan, discussed how she felt that the abortion industry was one incinerator company away from being shut down. And she talked about the difficulty that they are having in the industry of disposing of fetal tissue, fetal remains, aborted babies, and the like. And so when I saw that video, it immediately occurred to me that this is the weak link, and that if we were able to pressure medical waste companies to disaffiliate and not partner with Planned Parenthood and the abortion cartel, we could effectively shut down the industry. And so that video was released, and then our Attorney General here in Ohio, Mike DeWine, completed his investigation of Planned Parenthood for its involvement in body part sales, and found that they weren't doing that in the state of Ohio, but they were transporting babies, dead babies, aborted babies, and throwing them in landfills.
In a landfill? You'd think it may be an incinerator. I don't know what you would think, but to think of the bodies just sitting in a landfill is a strange thought.
It's sickening. and Stericycle, which is the largest medical waste company in Ohio, in America, and is a $1 billion international global company that's traded on the S&P 500, was the company that was implicated by the Attorney General in Ohio for throwing those babies in landfills. So we put the two together, and that is that Renee Chillian talking about this weak link, which is these incinerator companies, i.e. medical waste companies like Stericycle, and then the Attorney General actually having credible evidence that Stericycle was implicated in its partnership with Planned Parenthood in throwing babies in landfills. And that's when I came up with the idea of Project Weak Link, and that is to go after Stericycle and expose them to the community and to their clients for their involvement with abortion.
So basically the abortionist in the tapes, not realizing she was being recorded, was telling you, Mark Harrington, what is the weak link, and that's why you call the project Weak Link.
Exactly. I mean, they basically gave us their the marching orders for at least a part of our movement. See, there are lots of enablers to abortion. Every person that contributes to an abortion clinic staying in business is an enabler to the killing, and therefore I feel are open or should be subject to awareness campaigns. And the fact that these abortion mills would not remain open if they did not have a way to dispose of the aborted baby remains. I mean, it would be like a death camp in Germany, killing Jews but having no crematorium. I mean, what would they do with them? They'd have to find some way to get rid of them without these incinerator companies, without these so-called medical waste companies. There is no way to do it.
Well, it really does sound like the Holocaust with over 1 million little bodies every year in the United States alone. So you can see how the attitude sounds also very Nazistic. I heard that tape you mentioned with the abortionist Renee, what was her name?
Chillian, which is an appropriate last name, by the way.
Chillian. And it was a chilling experience to hear her say that her problem was she had 5 months of, she called fetal tissue, in the freezer with no place to go. She was thinking of having a bonfire. She wanted to tell women to take it home. It's your problem. And she used a phrase I didn't know, asking someone to put a 20 bottle in her garbage disposal. What did she mean by that?
Well, apparently they put the aborted babies in glass bottles, and she was asking someone to pour those 20 bottles down the garbage disposal.
Wow.
I mean, it's sickening, the thought of it. I mean, when I play that video for audiences, there's just these audible gasps, and people come to tears. I mean, when we think about what's happening in abortion and then how the babies are treated afterwards, it's absolutely beyond belief.
I actually heard a news story just recently about an abortion center that has had sewer problems, and they can't find out why the pipes are blocked. So you can
Well, there's a reason, and I think and that's why we launched the project, because if Stericycle were to stop doing the dirty work of Planned Parenthood and other abortion facilities across the country, we could shut a lot of these places down. And that's why we targeted them. And what we did, here's what we did. We decided that the way to get to these companies is not through a typical boycott. Sometimes those work, sometimes they don't. But medical waste companies don't deal directly with and they're not a retail business. They don't deal directly with the public. They deal with hospitals and medical facilities. Therefore, they're not as susceptible to a boycott. But pressuring the individuals in charge, i.e. the CEO and board of directors, directly by going into the neighborhoods in which they reside and exposing them through a door-to-door leafletting campaign of postcards connecting them to Planned Parenthood, we felt was the most effective way to get the word out, so that they had to deal with their complicity in abortion by having to answer to their friends, family, colleagues, people they might go to church with, people they associate with, and therefore putting personal pressure on them. See, folks have to feel the pain or feel the heat before they actually change their behavior. So that's what we did.
Well, I guess if they were proud of it, they wouldn't mind that you publicize what they do.
Exactly. In fact, I've often said they should write us checks because we're giving them free publicity. The truth of the matter is, as we all know, abortion is a dirty business. Really, intuitively, everyone knows there's something wrong with it. Stericycle knows, and you know, since we did this, you know, the day after we went up there to Lake Forest, Illinois, which is where their offices reside, their corporate headquarters north of Chicago. I came home with a voicemail from their high-powered firm, their attorneys, telling us that they were going to sue us.
What happened then?
Well, thank God for nonprofit organizations, law firms like the Thomas More Society. They jumped to our aid, went straight into court, and were able to get the temporary restraining order dismissed. So we were able to continue the project if we so choose, but the lawsuit continued and went for about 8 months. The three charges were this: defamation, false light, and get this one, intentional infliction of emotional distress.
Really?
That's what Charles Alutto, the CEO, was making that claim, that we brought intentional infliction of emotional distress, which I'll be honest with you, in the legal sense, we didn't meet that grade, but I plead guilty to that one. I mean, that was the whole point, you know, to bring some stress, emotional distress upon the CEO that they might change the behavior of the corporation.
Well,
the good news is, as of last, what was it, the 10th of November, Stericycle, after several attempts to argue their case, was forced to voluntarily dismiss all charges and claims against Created Equal and Mark Harrington. So it was a huge victory for the babies, huge victory for freedom of speech in the First Amendment.
I understand that you used photographs of exactly what the quote-unquote waste looked like. What was? Can you describe that?
Yeah, the postcards, if they go, your listeners or your viewers can go to projectweaklink.com. We have, replications of those postcards. We have all kinds of video of Stericycle trucks showing up at abortion facilities across the country. We have a whole photo gallery of Stericycle at abortion centers across America. All kinds of evidence as to their involvement. But those cards are on the website. And basically it was this. It says Charles Alutto, who's the CEO, enables child killing. Those were the words. And it had a picture, his picture, juxtaposed next to the picture of an aborted baby.
I just imagine if you were in Nazi Germany passing around postcards in Dr. Mengele's neighborhood, showing pictures of dead people from the killing centers there. And he sued you for inflicting emotional distress on him. It's really stunning to think of it that way.
Well, yeah, if we were to do that in Nazi Germany, we wouldn't be taken to court. We'd be shot in the head. Thankfully, in America, we still have an opportunity to redress our grievances through the legal process. And, it was very encouraging, frankly. We often don't see these victories in court. It seems like we lose in court. But it restored a lot of my confidence in the rule of law, and that America still is a nation of laws, and that there are still good judges out there that judge rightly and judge fairly and look at the law, look at the First Amendment, and believe that we have the right to speak, especially when it comes to these huge corporations that think that they are exempt from any kind of criticism and feel that they can bully and intimidate individuals like myself and small pro-life organizations like Created Equal. It just shows that when the founders wrote the Constitution and they talked about equal protection, that we still believe in it at some level in America. And I was very, very, very pleased to see that we came out on the right side. It was a victory for free speech. And now we've paved the way to continue this operation in Lake Forest, if we so choose, and if Stericycle refuses to partner with Planned Parenthood.
Well, good luck in your future work on that. And I wanted to go to the other type of project you mentioned, which was also involved photographs and education and information. It was reaching out to young people. Can you describe what you do and what kind of images you use for different ages?
Well, we take pictures of aborted baby images to high schools and colleges, and they're primarily first trimester, although there's some second trimester and very few late-term aborted babies. And the point of the matter is, you can't really have a conversation about abortion unless you settle the facts. And we need to settle the facts about who the baby is and what abortion does to the baby. Without evidence to that fact, to those facts, a conversation is really going to be based on your opinion against their opinion. Even though we have the arguments on our side, we have the logic, we have the philosophical arguments on our side, you've got to have evidence. And these photographs are the evidence. And very difficult for anyone to argue that the photos aren't rightfully depicting what abortion is, although we do get those types of people that deny the pictures are real. For the most part, people look at them and they understand what abortion is at a glance, and that's the value of using them.
So knowing the facts, just again, one more time thinking of knowing the facts about Auschwitz or Buchenwald, we have all seen pictures of what happened there, and you have to confront and then decide what you think about knowing the facts. What about a woman going in for an abortion? Do you know whether most women have the facts, have the visual, they know really what abortion is?
No, they don't. I mean, we also take these to the abortion mills in our city and across the country, simply because a lot of women don't know the facts. They're being pressured into it by a boyfriend or spouse or some other family member or who knows, and therefore they're making a decision that's in a crisis, and they tend not to investigate it fully. When we go to the abortion clinics, we realize it's the final line. You know, it's the last chance that a woman might have to change her mind and choose life. Therefore, again, we need to communicate a very complex message at a glance. A lot of time, I mean, you don't have a lot of time generally. You might get 30 seconds if you're fortunate out front of an abortion facility to be able to speak to someone. I think the pictures are a help in doing that because they can see what abortion is. And of course, the way we conduct ourselves, the way we behave is very important as well, making clear that we don't stand in judgment over a woman who might be considering abortion, but we are there as an act of love to them and their babies and asking them to choose life.
Well, there's a principle that anyone making any medical decision should have informed choice about what it is, how it happens. Right. Are you going into surgery? You get all the details, what could go wrong, exactly what they're going to do. Why not with this surgery?
Well, the reason being is that it's about abortion. I mean, it's the most unregulated so-called industry in America, and because of the politics, they don't want young women to know the truth. If they did know the truth, women wouldn't choose it as often as they do. It'd be very difficult to remain legal if people know what it's about, and therefore they're doing everything they can to censor it. And that's why we run into what we do, and that is that Planned Parenthood and others are doing everything they can to shut us down, whether it be legally or, for that matter, we have people vandalizing our displays, threatening to attack us personally, and so forth. There's a reason that we attract so much opposition and that is because I believe we're right over the target.
You're bad for business.
It's bad for business, exactly.
Well, how about a woman getting an abortion or about to or considering an abortion? What chance does she have to see an ultrasound, to see the healthy development of her child, not the tragic outcome of abortion, but how her child is developed inside her?
It's highly unlikely unless she lives in a state where they've passed ultrasound informed consent laws. There are some of those that are making their way through state houses and being enacted into law, where it's actually going to be required that they show a woman who is considering abortion an ultrasound. But for the most part, they aren't. And there's a reason for that, because they realize if they see the baby in the womb that they're not going to choose to abort the child. The same is true with us using photos on the outside, on the sidewalks of abortion clinics across America.
Do you, so it's one thing to show an adult going into the clinic the picture of what is going to happen if she continues with the abortion. What about, well, college students are generally adults. What about teenagers in a high school? Do you get some pushback from parents, depending how old the child is?
Quite often. In fact, if folks want to go to our YouTube page, we have all kinds of video of our outreach at high schools. And in many cases, in most cases, it's not the students that act poorly. It's not the students that act like children. It's the parents that do. Mm-hmm. They're the ones that get upset. They're the ones that vandalize our displays. They're the ones that scream and yell at us. And the reason is that if they're pro-choice, they don't want their children to see what they support. That's number one. They want to protect them from that because they don't want their children to think that mommy would ever be in support of this kind of thing. Just yesterday, we released a video of a principal in Fort Wayne at a high school coming out and trying to force our young people off a sidewalk and actually destroyed one of our signs. And then, thankfully, the police came in and told them that we had the right to be there. We are considering legal action against that school district right now.
Because you were on the public sidewalk, free speech.
Well, that's true, but I'll just say this. Unfortunately, the American people are not as well-versed in our Constitution and in our rights as citizens, especially the First Amendment. People believe that this is permissible behavior. We're seeing that in the aftermath of the election of Donald Trump, where high school administrators are allowing students to walk out because they're having a difficult time dealing with the election, supposedly, or they're creating what they call cry rooms on college campuses where students can come and share their grief, and they're bringing puppies in and things like that. We're seeing a coddling, and we've been seeing a coddling of the American young people for now almost a generation. We're raising a bunch of children rather than raising adults that are prepared to deal with tough subjects in the real world. We're not doing them any service by protecting them from issues like abortion.
Well, it sounds like you have some tough young people who are going out and telling the truth to other young people, student to student.
Yeah, our training is very unique. We don't believe that classroom training is enough. We don't believe filling the heads of young people or anybody else with facts about abortion or how to best argue it is enough. We believe that's important, but the most effective way to change hearts and minds is to take people, train them, and then put them out in the public square in which they might have conversations with people that disagree with them. And that's what we do day in and day out, and we are raising up a generation of very tough activists who are committed to the cause and willing to be persecuted and hated to defend babies at college and high schools around America.
Well, Mark, thank you very much for filling us in on the both of these issues, educating young people, and also what is happening to the bodies of aborted babies. And we appreciate your work, and thank you very much for being on our show.
Oh, thank you, and God bless you.
Thank you. And thank you, too, for listening, and see you next week on Life Matters.
Hello, welcome to Life Matters. I'm your host, Brendan O'Connell. Well, here at Life Matters, we're constantly searching for the truth, and sometimes we have authors who do the research and do all the hard toiling that it takes to come up with the truth, and turning over rocks and that sort of thing, and also putting things in a timeline that you so often don't see when you read reports in a newspaper that blurt out this or that, and really have misled the public in so many ways. Well, today we have someone from the south coast of Massachusetts, David F. Pierre Jr., and he has written a book. It's called Sins of the Press, the untold story of the Boston Globe's reporting on sex abuse in the Catholic Church. Well, certainly if you've been in Boston for the last 15 or 20 years, it seems like you can't pick up the Globe without a story like that being told, and there's really an agenda being written. Hi,
I'm Colby Mazzarella. Welcome to Life Matters, where we interview guests who protect human life from conception to natural death. Today's guest is C.J. Doyle, the Executive Director of Catholic Action League of Massachusetts. Hi, CJ. Welcome to the show.
Colby, delighted to be here.
Thank you. Tell us a little about the Catholic Action League of Massachusetts, and how do you defend human life?
The Catholic Action League was founded in 1995. We were the former Massachusetts chapter of a national organization, the Catholic League for Religious and Civil Rights. And in 1995, we became independent to concentrate entirely on Massachusetts issues. As a Catholic organization, we support the teachings of the Catholic Church in terms of protecting human life from conception to natural death, and we defend the religious freedom rights of Catholics and other religious believers and pro-lifers. We were one of the people who argued against the